Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Terry Olean, the Executive Director of the Highland Park Community Foundation, a grant-making organization that serves Highland Park and Highwood. Since our founding in 1992, we have infused $3.8 million into our community to help individuals and families and to enhance our community as a whole. As passionate as I am about the foundation and how we are changing lives, I'm not going to say anything further about it, though you will have the chance to read about the foundation in the materials that you'll receive after the webinar. For today, I have just one job, and that is to welcome you. So welcome. This is the fourth seminar that the foundation has co-sponsored with First Bank of Highland Park and the Highland Park Chamber of Commerce to provide education and non-monetary resources to nonprofits. Today's webinar will serve that purpose, but there's an exciting twist. In addition to helping nonprofits, we will be providing education and resources to help donors, who are, of course, critical partners for any organization that strives to make a difference in the lives of those they serve. So without further ado, I will turn this over to Nancy Boshes, who will be moderating today's discussion. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you all for joining us. Whether you are a donor, a nonprofit, or a nonprofit board member, we hope you will walk away from today's webinar with a few ideas on how to improve your impact. As Terry said, my name is Nancy Boshes. I'm the Private Banking Director at First Bank of Highland Park. I work closely with our high net worth clients to understand their financial objectives and provide liquidity guidance. The bank also works with nonprofits, offering a full suite of banking solutions. Now I would like to introduce our speakers and ask them to tell you a little bit about themselves. First, we have Steve Mesirow from Mesirow Financial. Steve?
Hello, I'm Steve Mesirow. I'm a wealth advisor and financial planner. I've been doing this for 29 years and lived in this community all my life. My job is to make people's money fit their life, and that includes their philanthropic wishes.
Also joining us is Stefanie Pessis Weil from Empowered Nonprofits. Stefanie?
Hi, my name is Stefanie Pessis Weil. I am the Chief Empowerment Officer at Empowered Nonprofits. I've been consulting with nonprofits for about 14 years in the area of board and leadership development and fundraising, but I've been working in the field for about 22 years now, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, thank you both for joining us. We will start with a few questions that I have prepared for the panelists, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers at the end. If you have a question, please enter it in the Q&A section, which is at the bottom of your screen. And please enter it there instead of in the chat field. That way, the question will come directly to me and not be viewed by everyone on the call. And then, of course, I will keep your name confidential, so please do not be shy. Okay, let's start with the first question to Steve. Steve, how can an organization tell if a donor is not optimizing the tax efficiency of their donation?
Usually I can tell they're making a mistake by they're making a large cash donation. What people are doing now is they're either using their retirement plan and making a qualified charitable donation, or QCD, that counts towards their required minimum distribution. That's one way that's very tax efficient. The second way is they're using donor advised funds, and they're donating low basis stock or a part of their business, whatever it may be. They're donating appreciated stock. They get the full deduction, and they don't have to pay capital gains. So either the charity or the client is going to be better off by doing so. And then they can still, if they donate a large amount, they can distribute the amounts they would go to charity over a long period of time. It doesn't have to be, a large donation doesn't have to be given all at once. So you could fund years worth of donations with one appreciated security. The second mistake that I see people making is they're making a large bequest at in their will or on their demise, and you can accomplish the same thing. You can accomplish the same goal of getting that money to charity upon your demise by leaving part of your retirement plan to the charity, because those would be taxable dollars to your heirs. Or you can do, if it's a large amount, you can do a charitable remainder trust, get some tax benefits while you're alive, and the charity will still end up with the same amount of money that you want them to get. So you can accomplish those same goals and get some tax benefits along the way.
Absolutely. And Steve, just to jump in here too, I really believe that it's important for organizations to reach out for help if they don't understand the tax laws or the tax rules, and how they should really be seen as guides for their donors as well. And so if they don't have the answers to those things, they should be reaching out to Steve or to somebody like Nancy for that guidance as well. So we want to be very good stewards of our organization's gifts.
Okay, thank you both. It sounds like education is really critical here, and we appreciate the valuable advice. So, Stefanie, going back to you now, aside from providing that education, what are other ways organizations can keep their donors engaged? Their current donors, I should say.
Absolutely. This is extremely important and one of the main things that I work with my clients. It's so essential that we don't just talk to our donors once a year. We actually believe that it takes somewhere between 7 and 8 touch points during the course of a year with a donor to keep them engaged and educated so they know what is going on with your organization. There's a quote that I love. It's people will support the organization that loves them the most. And I think that, this is very true as it relates to, how we're engaging our nonprofit organizations. There's really 2 types of fundraising that I'd like to discuss. One is relationship-based fundraising and one is transactional-based fundraising. So transactional-based fundraising is, my friend is doing a walk this week and they send a website out and they ask me for a gift to support that. And that's really the last time that the organization, I have any sort of interaction with the organization. It's basically because somebody asked me for that gift. Relationship-based giving is, how do we connect with that donor over the course of the year? We are educating them, we're engaging them, but we're also understanding what their needs are. And especially as their donations get larger, is there a program that interests them? Is there somebody in the organization that they feel more connected to? So we really want to keep them not only feeling connected, but really understanding what they want as a donor. We have 3 different types of donors to organizations. One is an impulse donor, so somebody who's giving on a whim because something attracts them to the organization. A habitual donor, somebody who gives regularly, and they've just kind of developed loyalty to that organization. So every year, the end of year letter comes and they write that check and they put it in the mail back to the organization. Then we have donors that are very thoughtful and they really think about their gift to the organization. So that's really, where we would like to move all of our donors to that place of thoughtful donors. And the last thing that I would really like to touch on is that, what is the difference between solicitation and cultivation? Cultivation is that year-round, gradual, open-ended, multi-dimensional process, right? So we're actually connecting with a donor through newsletters, through webinars, through an end-of-year campaign, through events. Even right now, we've done a ton of virtual events this year, and all of the events that we've run, the organizations are reaching their goals because they're giving their donors an opportunity to engage. Solicitation is only that one time ask of a gift. It's that once a year, that one step, one ask, one dimensional contact. So remember, we want lots of steps going on before we get to that point of solicitation.
I agree, Stephanie, and I think if you understand their goals and you ask the family, what are you trying to accomplish? That's a better ask and a better relationship. And there might be ways, to help them accomplish that, to help them accomplish their goals and make that part of their family story.
Thank you. Let's go back to Steve. And Steve, can you share with us what type of planning techniques donors are using?
A great technique people are using right now is the donor advised funds are terrific in that you can give your one stock and then give out your money 10 different ways. So if I have a gain of $100,000 stock that I bought well, I can donate that to a donor advised fund. I can give it out to 5 different charities in different amounts. It doesn't matter, and I can also affect the timing of that. So I've had clients where I know they're going to retire they give $20,000 away a year, which is fine. That's what they're used to and that's what they're comfortable with. I know they're going to retire in 2 or 3 years, so the donation is more valuable right now than it will be 3 years from now when they're retired. So what I'll have them do is accelerate and give 4 or 5 years worth of donations right now, get the deduction now, and they'll still give away their $20,000 every year like they were planning on doing anyway. So you can also do some things with charitable lead trusts, but you can also, the basic message is you can manipulate when you get your tax deduction, and let's do it in a year that's most valuable, and not do it, and turn it off in a year that's not valuable. Some businesses fluctuate, their good years and bad years. Well, let's accelerate their donations and their deductions into the good years and dial it back or wait in a down year. So that's been a great technique for people to use. And you also and you also get to avoid your taxable event. So with your $100,000 stock that you had as a gain, you're going to avoid 20% federal capital gains tax plus 5% Illinois. So you're going to be $25,000. The donor's going to be $25,000 better off. That's either going to go to the donor or they can increase their charitable gift. Either way is a win. And if they have, say, the other techniques they have, if they have estate issues, there's things they can do with charitable lead trusts or charitable remainder trusts, and that's a conversation that we bring in the accountant and the attorney in to see. Again, going back to what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish as a family, and what are your issues? And if you're facing a big estate tax, then that's extra motivation to give to charity, because you'd rather have it go to your causes than taxes in every case I've seen.
Okay, thank you, Steve. It sounds like planning in advance is critical to maximizing your current and your future impact. Let's bring it back to Stefanie. Stefanie, earlier you had talked about how organizations should engage with and educate their current donors. How can they cultivate new donors?
Excellent question. So this is one of the, I would say, most fun parts of my job, is helping organizations find those new donors. It's a really exciting process when an organization gets a new gift in, or is able to raise a larger gift from somebody who's been giving in the past. So we spend a lot of time with organizations looking at their donor base of support, their current donor base of support, those that are currently involved in their programs, those that are involved on their board of directors, donors who have maybe lapsed. So maybe somebody who gave to their organization in the past, but they're not necessarily giving at this stage of the game. So there's lots of ways that we can help organizations identify where they could potentially find new giving dollars. I'm working with an organization on a capital campaign. They have a sub program of their main program that they have, and they're really trying not to go to the individuals that have been giving to their core program over many, many years. They're trying to expand their donor base of support to this new program. So what we've done is we really culled through the list of the families that were involved in this secondary subset program of their organization, and sat down with the staff of that organization and said, who do you think has capacity here? Who do you think could potentially be a donor to this project? And then we brought those individuals to the board of directors, and a lot of them actually had connections with those families. So now not only is this a new potential donor base of support, but the board members are excited because they have these personal connections that they are able to utilize in asking for dollars. And something that I like to do with organizations is to say to them, okay, at our next meeting, we're going to prospect together. I'm going to bring a list of potential donors or past donors that haven't given in a very long period of time, and we're going to go through that list together. And what it does is it gets people's wheels turning. They start to talk. I like to share it on a screen and have it in a Google Share Doc so they can see in real time that I'm making changes. I'm adding people's names to that potential donor. And so it becomes a very engaging process, and it also becomes a brainstorming process. So, that person's on the list. Well, you know what? This other individual should be on the list, or this corporation should be on the list as well. So we've really been able to build a potential prospect list through this process. And it's really, it's very exciting, and I love doing it. When you're talking about individual potential prospects and you're working with your board or your development committee, you can encourage them to think about who their family and friends are, who are their colleagues, who are their clients, their professional contacts. Do they have an acquaintance that, the mission might resonate with them? Anybody on their social media that they see is posting about a particular topic that relates to that organization. And also just people who are generally philanthropic, they're open to listening to you and want to know. And the other part the flip side of that is really the corporate prospects, right? We often forget about the corporate potential partnerships with organizations. There in Highland Park, there's very wonderful corporations that want to give back to their communities. And so if we sit down and we have those conversations with those corporations, we may be very pleasantly surprised that they are willing to show up and give. So just remember, you have vendors that you're utilizing. You might have your own clients that might be interested in your cause. There are retail establishments that you frequent. So we always just want to be thinking about who's in our network, who do we know, and who can we add that we believe that the mission of the organization will resonate with.
Related to that, Stefanie, is getting the children, getting the children of your donors. And I've had one way to do that is to leave a donor advised or charitable fund for the children to give away. They don't get to use it. They have to. When the kids get control of this, they have to give away money each year. And that's one way I've seen parents impart their values on their children, that now they have to give away money. And I've seen this in a couple of cases where now those kids are donating they're donating pretty good money to charities, and now those kids are sitting on boards of charities, so they have to get involved. And good for the parents and good for the kids that now they got that next generation involved. Maybe not necessarily. Sometimes it's in the same causes that their parents did, and sometimes it's their own causes, and whichever is great.
Absolutely, Steve. And I think that what this also touches upon for me is that I always see everybody as a prospect. Everybody that I speak to about the organization, I should be, as a board member, that I am an ambassador to that organization, right? So I'm always out there thinking about whoever I'm talking to. Not only are the children of, of these potential donors a prospect, but your board members are prospects, and we should treat our board members that way. We have no idea where that relationship can go, how they're talking to their own families about what they're involved with, and where those relationships could potentially go down the line. So we want to treat each person that's involved with the organization, whether they're even, I always say, listen, I might not be able to give $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, but I might be able to give $100. But I might have people in my network or in my family that have that capacity that I would be willing to connect the organization with. So everybody should be treated with the same level of respect. And you want to make sure that you're really viewing them through the lens of, how can this person make a difference? How can I help them make a difference?
Okay, let me quickly get to a question that's come up, which I think is really a good question. Stefanie, you had mentioned donor pools and the different types of donors, the impulse, habitual, and thoughtful. What do you suggest would be the best way for donors to get to the thoughtful category, or to get donors to the thoughtful category?
So, I think that there are so many creative ways that we are encouraging, especially in the age of pandemic, right? To bring people to that, thoughtful level. I think that we're encouraging organizations to do more and more engagement on topics that are going to be interesting to them or specific to where they are in their life cycle as it relates to that organization. So I was actually speaking with a director of an overnight camp the other day, and they would really like to launch a much more strategic fundraising program. And what I was saying to him is, well, how are you engaging the parents, right? How are you bringing them into the organization and helping them understand the needs? If these parents have been so blown away by the support that you've given to their family this year, not just through their overnight camp experience, but through webinar-based camping experiences, what is also something that you can provide to these parents? And so we started really thinking about, well, what are some of the topics that these parents might be experiencing? Separation anxiety for their children, and how do you anticipate that? So becoming an expert on a particular topic and providing that expertise a professional leader to ensure that they're finding the right way to get involved, such as, maybe I don't want to be the one to solicit, but I'm happy to go on the solicitation meeting and sit there and share my story and my experience being involved with the organization. And then the second person that's there in the meeting can actually do that ask. So we really want you to encourage to sit down with each member of your leadership team, of your board team, and to say, hey, how can I help you? How can I support you? What's the best way that you can help this organization raise dollars and identify new prospects?
Great. Thank you, Stefanie. Steve, I am going to ask you a question. I work with many business owners that plan on selling their business in the future. How can they incorporate their future philanthropic goals during this planning process?
Well, I'd say number one, you've got a danger here of losing a big donor. And there's also a big opportunity here. When somebody sells their business, they're most likely going to pay a very big tax. And this is a chance where you need the accountants, the attorney, and the advisor and the wealth advisor together to do this planning before the sale is made, because you can donate. You can donate shares of a public company. Everybody knows that's easy. You can also do that with a private company stock, and you can do that before the sale. So in most cases, that's going to be tremendously appreciated. And now you put that money into a fund that's going to that pre-tax, that money before it's taxed. You can put that into a fund that's going to fund that family's charitable donations for the rest of their lives. So I think it's a great opportunity. And sometimes business owners are just focused on, okay, here's the dollars that I was offered. Here's the dollars that I'm going to be offered or that I'm going to be selling for, without thinking about what the net after tax is going to be afterwards. And now you're going to have a lower base of which to give off of. So it's a great opportunity to do some planning well beforehand with the whole team of advisors.
Okay, thank you. And this question is actually for both of you. Feel free to jump in. How can families incorporate philanthropy into their financial plan, such as generation giving? Steve, you want to go first?
Sure. So this is always why I ask early with a family when I'm talking about their goals of what they're trying to accomplish, retirement, second home, philanthropy, what's important to you, because if philanthropy is important to the Johnson or Smith family, it's what is this family about? What is important to us, and what kind of message do we want to pass on to our children? So if we pass on through a charitable foundation or a donor advised fund, and let the children participate both in their lifetime and then after their lifetime, have this base to give off of, you've now shared your values with your children and passed on what's important to you. And you also can do it through actions. And the timing of this meeting is very spot on, because I just had a very personal experience with the Highland Park Community Foundation. Terry Olean did a great service for me. My father died a year ago, and giving and service was important to him. And the Highland Park Community Foundation put together a service project that we were able to do in his honor just this past Sunday. And so we had 40 people. There were 30 coworkers and 15 family members that came, and we did a service project for 2 hours. And it was the perfect way to honor. It was the perfect way that my father would want to be remembered, and it was the perfect for the family. So it was a wonderful message, and my children were able to, my children and my nephews, and we were all able to share in this, and that made it much more meaningful. And thank you, Terry and the Highland Park Community Foundation. It was spot on. So I would say if philanthropy is part of your mission and what's important to you and what you want to pass on, then do it. And there's great avenues, and there's the money parts, but Highland Park Community Foundation or Stefanie or Terry can help you put together something that fits your family, and how wonderful.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback on what Steve just said, I really think that it starts with the organization. I think that donors don't always know that there are resources like Steve out there to help their family determine their family's philanthropic goals and initiatives. But if the leadership and nonprofit organizations understand that there's a family commitment to that organization, that it's up to the leadership of that organization to ensure that they're saying, hey, have you thought about that? Can we think about sitting down with somebody to help identify how we can incorporate, your family giving and also match it up to our needs? Let's talk about endowment. Let's talk about capital campaign. So I do think that organizations have a responsibility to, once again, it goes back to that relationship-based fundraising. Once you really have that relationship with with a foundation or with a donor, understanding, well, what's the long-term goal here? How can we work together to ensure that both of our needs are being met? And let's make sure that that happens together.
Thank you both. And Steve, thanks for sharing that story. I had one question come in. Let's see. How can I evaluate how a nonprofit is using my donations?
Steve, do you want me to take that?
Please.
Okay.
Go ahead, start out.
Okay, so I think that it's very important for an organization to really be, the word is impact, right? We use this word a lot in the nonprofit field. How can we demonstrate impact? So we like to do this through a number of ways. One is, I think that it's important that we're reaching out throughout the course of the year to our donor base of support through newsletters, through sharing stories. I like to always, recommend that we have like that, special highlight or donor, spotlight or programmatic spotlight. So we can do this in a number of ways. One, I'd like to always start off of a board meeting by highlighting a success story that we've had within the past however many months since we've met, so that board members understand, yeah, we're here, we're having an impact in this way. This is really special and significant, the work that we're doing. I also think that it's important through utilizing your newsletters and through utilizing your social media to also tell the stories of success in your organization. Connect a face to the mission. Help people see how far your donor dollars are going by illustrating the impact through a donor story. But I also think that by using, and a lot of people have gotten away from this, but I think it's very important by putting an annual report out there. So there's those emotional heartstring ways to illustrate impact, but some people are more numbers people, right? And they want to see the dollars, they want to see the budget numbers, they want to see how the dollars have been spent. And so I really think that even if you decide to do it digitally or just to put it up on your website, I think it's really important to give a sense of how much money did we raise, how much money went out, and how did we use those dollars? Because really sophisticated donors want to understand that their dollars are going far.
Right. They're going to want metrics and measurables.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Do we have any questions out there that anyone would like to share? Okay. Let's see. So, here's questions. Okay. One thing just to mention too is you can, of course, use your banker as a reference tool. As an advisor, something that we do is we have these connections, and we also know people like Steve Mesirow and Stefanie, Pessis, Weil, and others who we can actually connect our clients to. Of course, we've got trust attorneys and everybody that can help with this whole planning process. Let me ask Steve if you have any closing remarks that you would like to share with our audience. We don't have any more specific questions, but is there anything that you were hoping to talk about that you want our audience to know?
I think I'm good, but I think the main issue I want you to focus is on not the how, but the what people want to accomplish. And if we can focus on what they want to accomplish, I think that's going to be a service to your donors, and it's going to give you a better chance of retaining them over the long period of time before that generation goes away, or their business is gone, or their income is gone. You can do planning for that ahead of time if you have the relationship and you know what they want to accomplish. So the how is sort of that's sort of a directed at me. But if I know what people want to accomplish, that makes my life much easier. That makes my job much easier, and as well as the other advisors. So that's what I would close on is focus on your relationship and what they want to accomplish, and know what's going on with them before they sell their business, before they retire. Let's get those donations in when they're going to. Let's get them their deduction and the funding mechanism for their donations for the next 20 years in ahead of time for their good and to protect your organization.
Stefanie, any comments that you want to close with?
I think that Steve and I have a very similar theme here, which is relationships and connection. I think that what Steve just illustrated is know what the needs are of the families that you're working with. My message is the same. Once again, I'll go back to the quote that I started with, which is people will support the organization that loves them the most, right? And that is about relationships and really ensuring that your whole entire team is well versed in that. Your board members, your staff, the clients that you serve, everybody should be seen as an ambassador to your organization. Everybody should be seen as a potential donor to your organization, whether it's them or whether it's a connection that they have themselves. We've seen donations. I've seen donations come about. I'm working with a school right now for children with autism, and there's a teacher working in the school, and she doesn't have any capacity herself, but she just loves the mission and what she does on a daily basis. And it's so moving to her that she brought her grandparents in to tour the school last week. And that just was, they gave $5,000 on the spot. There's more where that $5,000 came from. And if that relationship is cultivated and stewarded in the right way, that school is going to see those donations go a lot farther. So I just think it's about, really paying attention to the needs of each person. Don't lump your donors into one grouping. Think of them as individuals. Think of them as individuals with different needs and wants. And hopefully you can meet those for them without compromising your values and your ethics and who you are as an organization. Don't go too far.
Well, thank you, Steve and Stefanie. As an advisor to high net worth donors, I know these issues come up often, and the information you provided today is extremely valuable.
Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you,
Education.
Nancy.
Oh, thank you. And it's important to be educated. I think that's the bottom line about everything you've talked about here today. And of course, that cash is not always king. That's, the banker in me has to say that. So I'm going to wrap this up, and thank you again. And I'm going to turn the platform over to Ginny Glassner, who's from the Highland Park Chamber of Commerce, for some concluding comments. Ginny?
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Stefanie and Steve, for sharing your valuable insights and advice. I am Ginny Glassner, President and CEO of the Highland Park Chamber of Commerce. And I just need to tell you, I'm sure you all noticed that we experienced a technical glitch. We had a power outage that knocked out all of our power and our internet, but this is still being recorded, and so you will get the link to that. Nonprofit organizations play a vital role in building healthy communities by providing critical services that contribute to our economic stability. especially in a time of growing needs such as this and limited or shrinking resources. Nonprofits are often starved for the kind of support that can strengthen their operations. So, what is the Chamber's role in social responsibility? How does the Chamber help? By being creative and resourceful, we engage with organizations and make the connections they often need to support their mission. Let me tell you a story. At a recently held Chamber Connections breakfast meeting, we introduced one of our nonprofit organizations to a for-profit business. The nonprofit shared a challenge that they are experiencing in serving a segment of their client base. Right then and there, the two decided to partner on an event. The event and promotion brought awareness and solutions to each business. There was a relationship built, a community need addressed, and a win-win for the community. People often forget that nonprofit status is a tax designation. But first and foremost, a nonprofit is a business. The Chamber exists to build and strengthen business and community. We use our convening power and networks of connections to facilitate introductions and opportunities and provide access to resources and solutions for business needs. We talked a lot today about building relationships, and that's key. I would like to thank the nonprofit organizations who are current partners with the Chamber. And to those who are not yet, we invite you to join us now in our mission to build a stronger, more prosperous community. The link to the recording of today's session will be sent to you, along with the digital program guide containing additional information. Thank you to First Bank of Highland Park and the Highland Park Community Foundation for partnering with the Chamber today, and to all who attended this webinar. Go forward and do great things.